Hello. Thank you for joining the live. Is it Nanis? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Hello. Thank you for joining from Indonesia. Thank you. Hi Vimlesh. Hi Ashish. I hope I'm pronouncing your names right. Sorry if I'm not. I'm doing good. How are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm from Colorado. That's good to hear. I'm glad to know you're doing well. Hello. Thank you for joining. Hello, Linda. Miss Linda, how are you doing? I'm doing good. A little tired. Usually on Sunday I rest, but I did not rest today. I'll pay for it tomorrow when I have to work. Thank you, Daniel. That's good to hear, Miss Linda. I'm glad you're doing good. So I'm gonna try not to be on here too long. Thank you all for joining. Something's in my eye, but I wanted to I like to be obedient to Jesus, and I was really tired. We have a new system at our job, and so I've been sort of training with that this weekend. And we had a meeting at the church today, a servant meeting. You know, it was just a lot going on today. Normally Sunday is more calmer, and I don't really have anything to do but just lay around, eat some good food, and lay around. But this Sunday was different, but it's okay. God will give me strength. But I wanted to talk briefly about something that's just really in my spirit, real strong. And like I said, I wasn't going to get on here tonight, but God said, do what I told you to do. So I'm going to be obedient to him, but because somebody needs to hear this. When I found out today that someone shared with me today that they had a loved one who took their life. And so it just really hurt my heart so bad, y'all, because this was a father. This was he had not only a father, I'm not for sure if he was married, that doesn't matter, but he was a father. He has two little daughters, two little baby girls that he's left behind. And he just, he felt like, none of us was there, but he felt like, that was his way out. But I wanted to share two scriptures here. It's Psalm 30, and I want to read verse 11. And it reads, "You turned my wailing into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy." And then I'll read 12, verse 12, "That my heart may sing to you and not be silent. O Lord, my God, I will give you thanks forever." And then I want to also read Isaiah, the 40th chapter, and the 31st verse. "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." So I just wanted to share those two scriptures, and I pray this encouragement to somebody. But again, this lady, I know her since we moved here. She shared that with me, that it was a relative. He took his life last week, sorry, and he went away to whole nother place, and did it. And they found him, I think, the next day. But he was just dealing with a lot of struggles in his mind. He didn't, like I said, none of us was there, but, usually it's people feel like they don't have a way out, but there is a way out. We have to go, I know a lot of people don't know the Lord, but that's why it's so important for us, y'all. And I try my best to practice what I say and what I encourage others to do. You see people all the time in stores. You got people in your family. You got people right in your house. You got people that you just know, that you're good friends with them. And a lot of times you can't, there's no way you can look at someone and tell what they're dealing with. There's no way. Only God can do that. But we as believers, we as just people, just humans, we are to be loving to one another. I teach my children all the time. I say, don't be ugly to nobody. I don't care if they being ugly to you. You be even nicer to them. I said, don't make fun of nobody. When all of them were in school, I would tell them all the time, don't you dare make fun of nobody. They would come home and say, that little boy or that little girl, they describe how they were dressed, but they weren't making fun, but they would just, they knew, as children, they knew something, was going on. And I said, just pray for them. That's what I would tell them. I said, because they would tell me other kids were laughing. And I know my children weren't perfect, but I told them, I said, I better never, ever hear you making fun of nobody. Because, and even in my adult life, I still practice that as though I'm still in school. When I go anywhere or whatever, if I see someone who, look like they want to talk or they want to be heard, I'm right there. I was just talking to a lady today at the church, and I could tell she needed somebody to listen to her. And that's the way God has created me. I don't look down on nobody. I don't have that right. But my heart really goes out to this young man who took his life, because I don't know him. I never knew him, but I know of him now. And so that's a big deal for me. You can say, well, why you never knew him? But the lady who told me, that was her family member. So my heart goes out to her, and I'm going to continue to pray for the family. Those babies, they won't get to see their daddy, no more. These were little girls, his daughters, precious souls. And, like I said, I don't know what he was going through, what he was dealing with, but that's what I'm saying. I'm sure he had cried out. I'm sure he was, there were warning signs. I don't know. But I know that Jesus is the answer. He's the answer to whatever we got going on. We tend to, we want to drink, we want to smoke, we want to go party. But if there's an underlying issue there, take it from me, I know, because I've been there. I never drank or did any of that, but I did other stuff. I had sex outside of marriage. That was my, way of, what I mean by sex outside of marriage. I'm talking about before I met my husband. I'm not talking about while I was married. I'm talking about before. But what I'm saying, that was a masking. That was my way of dealing with issues that I didn't want to cope with. So I didn't know. I've never thought about taking my life, but I have talked to people who have discussed that with me. I talked to a lady today. I shared that with her about the young man who took his life. And she said, I battled with that for a while. And I said, wow. She said, yeah. She said, because I thought I had no other way. But she said when she came to know Jesus, she said Jesus turned everything around for her. And, it ain't no quick, easy fix. We got to get to know him. It's a relationship. And if you don't know him, ask him, just invite him in your heart. But again, that really bothered me the whole church service today. I couldn't even really focus, because I was thinking about his family. What was so bad that he took his life? Young man, and he went off somewhere else. He went outside of his house to take his life. He didn't even do it right there. He went, to another place. But y'all, that's what I'm saying. We got people right around us that are crying out for help. You got children, you got parents, you got uncles, you got aunts that need you to just be there for them. They need you to, we were in Tennessee, y'all, God is my witness. I was literally going around, even before my late husband passed away, I was going around and I was going over different family members' house. How are you doing? I ain't have, on the weekend, I didn't have anything to do. I was off. And a lot of them, seemed like some of them, I guess I got on their nerves, but I was just checking on them. That's all I was doing. Didn't nobody come check on me, but it was okay. God he didn't want me to have them console me. He wanted me to console them. That's just the type of heart I got. I got a heart for everybody. It ain't no black, white. It's everybody. I love everybody. I don't care. But I was going over their homes and stuff. One particular family member, she since passed away. She passed away last December. She was sick. She had cancer. But I was going over there. Or, she lived with my aunt. I was going over there just, before, like I said, this was before my husband passed away. But it was just something I enjoyed doing. I like checking on my family, Like I said, they didn't return the favor, but I didn't care. I like going over their house, How y'all doing? What y'all doing? And then a lot of times that opened up conversation, well, I'm not doing so well today. I had a cousin that passed away back in 20 it was 20 I'm trying to no, I'm sorry, it was 1997, sorry. And she passed away. We still don't really know what all the details, but I shared a video about her. Nobody, things like that happen in the family. Nobody want to talk about it. She dead, but she was crying out too. She was crying out too. She was battling a lot of stuff, but what happened? The gun went off. We still don't know, wasn't nobody in the room but her and her husband. So we don't know. He say self-defense. We don't really know what truly happened, but we know she died. We know that she's dead and he's still living, but we don't know about that. So we just have to go with what was given to us from, but what I'm saying is that she was crying out. She was dealing with drinking. She was dealing with a lot of stuff. And the Lord put me, even though we were cousins, but the Lord allowed me to spend time with her. He knew I was going to do that. I didn't have it. That's when I was working. I worked at a plant job for 12 hours, but so I was off, during the week. I worked the weekend. So I was off during the week and I worked 12 hours, but I would go over her, me and her just sit up over her house and we just talk, Now that was a time, I'm gonna be honest, because I don't get on here lying. So there was a time when she would come over my house. That's when I stayed with my mom them, and she would ask me to bring her some beer. And I was doing it because I didn't know any better. I'm just gonna be honest. I said, well, that makes her happy. And so I did it a few times because she didn't just wait on me to buy it. She would buy it for herself, but for whatever reason, that was my gift to her when I came up to the house, a quart of beer. And we just sit there. She watch her stories, Young and the Restless, whatever. But she was telling me, I'll never forget this, y'all. She told me, she said, I wish I would just die. She said, I'm tired of living like this. That's what she told me. And at that time, I was confused myself. Yeah, I was grown, but I wasn't even living the way I should have been living. So I didn't have no sound advice for her. It made me sad that she said that. She was a lot older than me. But I was like, well, and so that's where the beer came in at. I'm giving her something in return. I don't know what to say to her, so maybe this will help her feel better. But that was not the answer. It was not the answer. So even though I wasn't in the Lord then, and even though I wasn't in church like I should have been, none of that. Wasn't reading my Bible, wasn't doing none of that. I was in the world, doing all type of stuff. But the Holy Spirit informed me to say, tell her no. The next time she asks you to bring her beer, you tell her no. And I did. And she didn't like it. She did not like it. But she respected me telling her no. And that made me feel good, y'all. Because I was like, well, and I still went over her house and talked with her. But she told me that. She told me that. And I think about that often. She was crying out. And I, like I said, I didn't know what to do for her. And I did, but I didn't tell my parents really until after she passed away. But she was crying out. She was crying out to me. She was crying out to so many other family members. And a lot of family members, oh, she just like to drink, Oh, she just like to, she just, basically she just a lost cause. But now she's dead, died at 40. She was in her late 40s. And she had children. She had grandchildren, and I think about that. I think about her often, every now and then I think about her because I'm like, I was able to spend, even though, I didn't do but God knew that I didn't have nothing to offer her other than telling her no. Maybe that's all I needed to do, but at the same time, after she passed away, my heart was so heavy. It was so heavy because I was like, wow, I wish I could have done more, but I didn't have anything else to offer her. I wasn't even living right. So how can I tell her what to do and I wasn't even doing what I was supposed to be doing? But I knew, okay, I don't need to give her no more beer because she already suffering. She already dealing with stuff. So why am I, adding to the upset, But like I said, after I stopped doing that, taking the beer over there, we would just sit and laugh. But when she said that to me, y'all, that pierced my soul. When she said, I'm tired, I just want to die. I'm tired of living like this. because she was miserable. She didn't work. You know, she dealt with a lot of mental abuse, you know, and stuff. So, you know, like I said, I shared that because I feel like nobody really shared her story in my family, you know, and for such a time as this, I'm all about the truth on my channel. I don't care what people think. I'm not hiding nothing no more. I'm 51. I spent most of my life dancing around people and afraid to talk about stuff. That's what's wrong now in families. That's why people are struggling and dealing with stuff. They have nobody to talk to. But I've already told the Lord. I say, use me. I do it. I listen to them. I talk to them. You know, that's how he made me. And I'm not going to try to avoid doing any of that. And no sooner the meeting we had today, this afternoon at church, it was a servants meeting. And right after I had just prayed right in the church. God is my witness. I had just prayed. I said, Lord, use us outside, use us at the gas station, use us, you know, in the grocery store. And no sooner than I said that, y'all, right before I walked out of the doors of the church we go to, I seen a lady I hadn't talked to in a long time, but I met her in a Bible study that we had at the church. It's been a couple years back. But I asked her how her family was doing and her grandchildren. And then that led into almost an hour conversation with her in the parking lot. And I said, okay, Lord, you know, you answer prayer. I just said, use me. She needed somebody to talk to. And I'm glad that I was able to talk to her because I could tell the more I was trying to, and I wasn't being mean or anything, but I was trying to be, you know, mindful of the time because I knew I had to train on, you know, do some stuff at home. But I was sort of scooting away from it, you know, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna be praying for you. And she studied, you know, she was steady coming towards me because she wanted to talk some more. She had some more stuff she needed me to listen to. And I said, okay, Lord, I'm gonna be obedient. So that's what I'm talking about, y'all. You know, if each one can reach one, you know, like I said, you got people right in your family. And the Lord often reminds me, you know, we're in Colorado now, but we got a lot of family in Tennessee, and there was this other family member, you know, that was in my heart real heavy. He had, you know, got into a situation before we moved here, and I just been praying for him that the Lord will, you know, touch his heart. And my prayer is that everybody, you know, I want everybody to make it to heaven, but I know a lot of people, you know, don't know Jesus, but that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to love on people. We're supposed to be there for somebody. Somebody calling you, wanting to talk to you, you know, wanting to want you to pray with them. Do it. You ain't that busy. And there was another time when I back in Tennessee, I was working at Blue Cross, and a young lady, you know how somebody when you're around, you know, at work, everybody laughing and whatever, and you, like I said, you can't look at nobody and tell what they're going through, but she texted me and she wanted me to pray with her, and I did it. And I'm not bragging, but I'm sharing this because this is when I was not in the Lord. That's what I want y'all to know. That's my whole point of sharing this. I was not in the Word. I was not reading my Bible. I was not fasting. I wasn't praying. I wasn't doing nothing. I go do what I want to do. I go to church on Sunday. Go in the door. Go back out the door the same way. Even worse, I went out. Went in. I go back out and go do Monday through Saturday all over again. And, you know, that's just what I did. I went to church on Sunday just to, you know, that helped me. Okay, I write a few notes down in my Bible, close my Bible, I won't pick that Bible up to the next Sunday because it didn't interest me like that. I'm just being honest. But now, I bet I read my Bible every day now. I bet I fast. I bet I pray. I bet I listen to God now. And it wasn't that he wasn't speaking to me then. It was that I was not listening. And I feel like, I guess I felt like I was too busy. You know, I just didn't have time for him. But I have time now. He got my full attention now through what happened to us, through death. You know, and it's sad that had to happen like that. But God got a way of shaking up people. He got a way of shaking your world up. Don't let him shake your world up. Now, it's gonna be for your good, but at the same time, it's gonna rock you. It's gonna rock you to the core. You know, take it from me. That's what happened to me. But again, We got people around us that are screaming for help. They are needing you to help them. Whatever you can do for somebody. Quit laughing at them. Quit talking about them. Quit saying oh, I don't know what's going to happen to them. They just, I don't know. They just, talking about them and putting them down. Quit doing that. Words got power. Instead, flip that and say, you know what? Let me go check on them. Go check on somebody in your family, your parents, your whoever. You don't know what people are dealing with. You don't know what they struggling with. Everybody don't have to tell you their business, and it ain't for you to sit back and guess what they going through. But when the lady told me that this morning, y'all, I was that just hit me. It was just like he was my brother or he was my son. It hit me real hard. And no longer is something far away. No longer is it somebody else's problem or somebody else's, oh, well, that's so sad. They got to deal with that. When you share something like that with me, it's part of me now. It becomes part of me. It's in my mind. It's on my heart. It's in my prayer list. That's just how it works with me. I don't, it used to be a time somebody shared something like that with me and I said, oh, that's such a shame. And I go on about my business, go eat me a hamburger or something. But no more. No more. It's serious. It's serious right now. Because like I said, somebody is crying out for help. People calling you and texting you and you say, ooh, I used to say that all the time. What do they want? Because I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Had so much going on. Didn't have nothing going on, but so I thought. What they want. They want to talk to you. They just want somebody to listen to them. And me and my stepfather, we sit and talk. I used to tell him all the time, I said, you've been on my mind. You okay? I call him up and he said, yeah, I'm okay. Or then sometimes he'll say, yeah, I wasn't feeling good that day. Or I'm just got a lot on my mind. And I said, okay, and we'll go have lunch or something or whatever. But as I think, y'all, like I said, nobody called and checked on me. I can't remember nobody called and checking on me, but it's okay. It's okay. Jesus checked on me. He said, while I take care of you, you check on them. That's all you need to do, and I do the rest. I take care of you. But I think about that. So I no longer, say, well, don't nobody do me like that, so I ain't doing them like, That make me want to do it even more. Because they don't do it, But some people, it's no right or wrong with that. Some people, they just not, that's not how they made. They not made to, they don't care, and that's just not where their heart is at. And it's, I can understand that because I haven't always been like that. But like I said, when I would literally go over people's houses and back in Tennessee, and I just be making my business going around, different one's house, and it was fun to me. And I sit up on a Saturday. I sit up over one of my aunt's house, me and her, because her husband had passed away. So, she was just there by herself. And I said, how you doing? You want something to eat? Just being there, being present in somebody's life. Maybe that made her feel better. I don't know. But it made, it was just nothing for me. I enjoyed it. I didn't want no money from it. I didn't want no, you didn't have to give me no gift. But now I'm gonna be honest, she did. It was this one day I went to visit her, and while I asked her what did she want, because that's when my uncle that's when he was sick, so she was, she was kind of taking care of him. And I said, what you want to eat? Well, I get you whatever you want. What you want to eat? And she said, all I want is a Little Caesars pizza. And so I said, okay, you got it. So I left, y'all, to go get her that pizza. And that's all she wanted. I was trying to think of something else. She said, that's all, I just want a pizza. And so I went to get her that pizza. And when I came back to the house, y'all, she had, I don't know if some of it was few little leftovers, but she had cooked the cornbread and it was something else. So she made me a to-go plate, y'all. And she had that waiting on me because she know I love pintos and cornbread and, just soul food. But she knew, that's what I like. And she had that all sacked up and stuff. And I said, how did you fix this quick? And so she was laughing, but she said she was fixing some of it when I was, was there before I left. But then some of that was something she had left over from the previous night. So I said, thank you. So that was like $1 million to me. But I told her, I said, you didn't have to do that. She said, I know. She said, but I appreciate you stopping by. And I said, no, I didn't want nothing from that. I did not. But I'm going to tell you, that food was good. It was real good. But, you know, like I said, being present in somebody's life and being there for them, just listening to them, will, you know, a lot of times will make all the difference in the world. And I know we got our own stuff going on. I know I sure do. But like I said, I really do. I check on my 4 children and I say, you good? You know, y'all okay? And I tell them, since I'm their only living parent now, I said, Mama ain't never too busy. My daughter who's in college, my youngest daughter, I said, you can call me anytime and whatever you need. You know, just if you need somebody to talk to or whatever, you know, you can call me. You can call me anytime. And they called me. She's called me at midnight. And some nights I be so tired. But I make time for them because, like I said, it's important. You don't know. You know, the enemy comes in to steal, kill, and destroy. And, you know, a lot of times he will get in our children's mind. He'll get in our mind, you know, and say, you ain't nothing. It's over. You ain't got nothing to live for. Don't nobody love you. Don't nobody care for you. You know, all these just lies. And, you know, it's a hopelessness, you know, and that's what the lady was sharing with me today. She said she felt very hopeless when she, you know, of course she didn't go through with it, but she said, and I said, oh, that hurt my heart too. She said, but I know Jesus now. She said, I know somebody care about me. And like I said, a lot of times when we're going through stuff, you know, sometimes we can't pick up the phone because don't nobody seem like they care, you know, but know this, that Jesus, he knows all about you, and he's the one that loves you the most. He knows everything about you. And like I said, I'm talking about myself, you know, all the stuff that I've had to endure and go through in the last 3 years. My husband passing away, you know, ridicule, mockery, whatever from my family. I'm still here. And I know if I don't know anything else out of this whole big lesson that I had to go through, and I'm still going through it, I know that Jesus cares. He's the one that I know I can go to morning, noon, or night, and he's there. He ain't got no busy signal. He ain't got no call me back. He ain't got no voicemail. He's there. He's there for you. He's there for you right now. And all you got to do is call his name. And that's a powerful name, Jesus. It's a very powerful name. So please, y'all, please check on your family members. You know, be there for your children, whatever the case, your spouse, whatever the case is, you know, people, you know, you ain't talked to in a while, just check on them, you know, and sometimes text is fine, but, you know, go by their house. That's what I was doing. I know I probably got on some people's nerves, but that's just, but in the end, you know, a lot of them will say, I appreciate you stopping by, you know, and then some of them, I go over their house and they be getting ready to go somewhere. And they'll, you know, they'll talk to me a little bit. But, you know, that's understandable because I didn't, you know, tell them I was coming. But, you know, I was like, okay, I took it in stride because I was like, well, you know, they doing fine because they get ready to go to the mall or they get ready to go to the grocery store, whatever, you know. But that's just me, you know, that's just me. And I'm still the same way, even though we away from a lot of people that, you know, we knew so well, family, whoever. But I've making new friends here in Colorado, and you know, you know, it's a few people I check on here. You know, I'm not big on just the text, but I will, you know, I'll call them up or I'll see them at church or whatever. But yeah, just be mindful of that. Because like I said, a lot of times, and not saying all the time when you don't hear from someone that something is wrong, but no, even still, just check on them, you know. And, you know, how are you doing? You know, you doing okay? You know, and you ain't got to know all that they're going through, but the fact that you are concerned will go a long way. It'll go a super long way with them because it just feels good for somebody. I've had, I'm gonna be honest, I've had more love, genuine love shown to me here by people that don't even know me than I have had just about all my life. And I'm just being honest right now. You know, people that don't even know you, they've never known you. And I'll share this. I've shared it before on my other videos on this channel, but My youngest son, he said, Mama, you just like it here because don't nobody know your past. I said, exactly. I said, but I'm trying to tell them my past, and they don't even care. They don't even care because they going by how I treat them. They going by how how I talk to them. They don't even care. I have tried. I've told people about how I used to be and how this is a different version of I know Jesus now. I got a relationship. I said you wouldn't have wanted to know the old me because it wasn't nice. But that's how God works. He changes us. It's a process. But I tried, I'm trying to tell them how it used to be. They don't even care. They don't even care because they love me for how I am, how I treat them, how I respect them, how I care for them. That's what they concerned with. And that's real people right there. Not trying to remind you of stuff you used to do. You had sex before marriage. Oh yeah, you did this. You used to talk about people. Oh, you used to gossip. Oh, you used to do this, throwing up old stuff. But a lot of times that's how you can know who really supposed to be in your circle. If they always bringing up old stuff, get away from them. Because they don't want to hear nothing about what you're doing, what God is doing new in your life. They want to bring up your past. And God has said, I've dropped the charges. The charges are dropped. You knew. We all knew in him. But we got to have a relationship with him. And again, check on somebody, whoever's in your life, check on them, y'all. I'm so serious. And I'll be continuing to pray, and you as well. Pray for the young man who took his life and his family, his I don't, like I said, I can't remember if he was married or not, but his daughter's mother, praying for them and just praying for their peace, because like I said, that really, I was so, on a high this morning. I'm talking about just happy in Jesus this morning, and that just really caught me off guard, because you just never know. You never know what people are going through, and that just hurt me. That hurt me to my heart. It really did, and it still is. It still is. So I'm gonna keep them lifted up in prayer, and I pray you do too. And those babies that he left behind, and of course, I know they're gonna get taken care of. But just praying that Jesus will get the entire family, peace, just peace, and peace that surpasses all understanding. And like I said, we just gotta do what we can while we can. That's what we're here for. We ain't here to take up space and air. We're here to help somebody, and to be there for somebody. Do whatever you can. That's all that's required. So I just like I said, we just have to. And that's another thing. A lot of times, people, they get on our nerves, and and our family and friends or whoever, but it don't matter. It still don't. It don't give us the right to, not listen to them or not be there for them, because that could be the very person God is wanting you to be there for. That person that you can't stand, or that person that get on your nerves, Because before we left Tennessee, there were a lot of, I spoke to a few family members, but one in particular, I prayed constantly with, and because he was battling, family member, he was battling a lot of stuff. And he used to say it. He said, the devil after me. And I said, don't say that. Don't speak that. And so, like I said, a few words, kind words, a prayer, whatever, a hug, just being nice, being kind to somebody, because you don't know what somebody is thinking about in their mind. You could be the one that either make them, you could be that decision factor, by you being mean to them or you being nice to them, that could determine what they planning to do, to themselves or to somebody else. So that's why it's so important, kindness do matter. Being there for somebody do matter, and just helping somebody. So that's where I'm at, y'all. Coming from a person who used to be so selfish and self-centered, worried about myself. When I had stuff going on, I could care less what you had going on. This was years ago. But the Lord has since, he's delivered me from that. And he said, That's not what it's about. That's not what life is about. You don't go through life just about yourself. It's not about us. It's all about Jesus. So again, I pray that as always, like I said, I was real super tired today. And I was walking around here in the condo, and I was like, well, because I was trying to, always around this time I try to get ready for my work week and get my, get my mind together and stuff, and get rested. And the Lord said, it was still in my, said, what did I tell you to do? So I said, okay, Jesus, I'm gonna do it. So he had placed this in my spirit to talk about this earlier today at church, and I was planning to do a live earlier today, but I had some things I had to do otherwise. So anyway, I did what he told me to do. So I just pray that you all always hear Jesus speaking through me and not just me. I pray you've had a beautiful Sunday in the mighty name of Jesus. Please know that Jesus loves you. He cares for you. He's always there for you. When nobody else is around, he's right there. He's right with you right now. So just if you don't know him, invite him in your heart and ask him to just help you. Surrender it all to him, whatever you got going on in your, any unforgiveness, any hurt, any, whatever it is. Just ask him to help you. He will. He will. He helped me. He's still helping me. So thank you all for listening, for subscribing to this channel. I pray God's blessings over you all. I pray that every prayer that you've ever prayed to Jesus, he will answer it according to his holy, perfect, and divine will for your life. And the best is still yet to come for you and for me. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. Thank you all so much. I love all of you with the love of Christ. Bye-bye. Thank you for coming on the live. Have a beautiful, blessed night. Bye-bye.